You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the BQN Podcast Collective. I'm your host for today, Thad, and joining me as always is my co-host, Chrissie. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. I think there's a storm about to come in. I should probably find some shelter, but, other than that. How are you doing?
Agree.
Agree.
Also joining us today is Alex Perry from Weekly Trek. Alex, thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
All right, before we jump into our topic for the day, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons who make the show possible, particularly associate producers Carl Wonders and Chrissie De Clerck-Szilagyi. Listeners, you can hear your name listed as one of our associate producers for a monthly subscription of just $10. Add your subscription of any amount at patreon.com/BQN keeps all the shows on the network ad-free. Alright, so Strange New Worlds, Season 3, Episode 9, the penultimate episode of Season 3, Terrarium. Alex, what did you think of this week's episode?
I was a big fan of this episode. I mean, it's a classic stranded on an alien planet episode, and it's a very good version of that kind of episode. It's exactly what I was hoping for out of the direction I wanted Strange New Worlds to take in terms of the Gorn story that they can't seem to get off of. And I thought it was a really terrific Ortegas episode, and Melissa Navia turned in a really great performance.
Well, I would say that maybe this is the end of the Gorn story, except we still have whatever's going to happen to Patel. So hopefully we can see the light at the end of the Gorn tunnel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I also loved this episode. Honestly, I think it might be my favorite of the season. I think it slightly edges over the Salat Who Ate Its Tail for me.
I would agree with that, except to the extent that while it is a very good version of the episode that it is not super original.
That's
before
fair.
Before we hit record, we named like 5 episodes that it's, draws different bits from. And I just added another one in my head, The Enemy. It's got and so it is. So like for me, I think Salat Who Ate Its Tail still slightly pips it for having something a little more like it felt a little fresher in structure and content than Terrarium did, but it's a close run thing in terms of the 2 best episodes of the season so far.
Chrissie, what did you think?
I really liked it. It was disconcertingly heavy after last week, but that's okay. That's how Strange New Worlds has been like that. We get a comedic episode and then something really heavy.
Yeah, I mean, last season we had Under the Cloak of War immediately after Those Old Scientists. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Immediately followed by Subspace Rhapsody.
Yes!
Yep.
Immediately followed by Hegemony Part 1, which is another very heavy episode.
Yeah.
So I really liked it. I have been wondering how they were going to deal with the Ortegas Gorn story and complete her. What's the word I'm looking for? Complete her dealing with, or as much as she can deal with her injury and the results of this, of everything that happened. And I think this is a great way to do it. And for lack of a better word, it humanizes the Gorn in Alien. What a terrible word. It makes them not just mindless enemies.
Human rights, the very term is racist.
In Alien, the very term is racist. That's the line. Okay.
You're right.
Thank you. But it's... All right, between the two of us, we got it. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we got a nice little resolution to the Ortegas plot. I'm very much looking forward to future episodes where we don't just have the subplot of Ortegas is racist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a great episode. It is sort of an odd wrap up to the stuff from earlier this season because that stuff is not directly referenced in this episode, right? Like her being super reckless in Shuttle to Kenfori and the conversation that she had with Una about like being really reckless, and then the end of Wedding Bell Blues where she's, you know, like punching stuff in the gym and then, you know, sort of sees the Gorn over her shoulder. Like, the setup for it was a little weird. I mean, I really liked that subplot in Shuttle to Kenfori.
Yes, I did too.
I thought it was really well done. But, like, you know, sort of the building blocks added together maybe don't work super well for me. But, again, doesn't take anything away from... This is a great episode, and it is, like, if you, regardless of, you know, what you think about the sort of build-up to it, it is a good payoff episode to Hegemony Part 2, and Ortegas has a traumatic Gorn experience that sets her up to see them only as monsters, and then comes to discover the truth that, or at least... starts to, you know, like get to know them better and discover that her perceptions about them are perhaps not matched with the reality.
Yeah. And it's gone.
He'll come back.
Nope. It's gone.
It's okay. What happens?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that this episode really sets it up as if we are, yes, putting a pin in the whole Gorn thing. But then, of course, we know that we still have something Gorn related with Batel, so it's interesting that they do that. But, of course... Next week is the finale, and presumably that will tie into that somehow. Unless, of course, they drag that out into next season. But I don't think they will.
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the alternate title for this episode is Arena Part 1. And it does make sense after Arena Part 1 to have Arena Part 2 be the next episode in which you are touching on this story.
Yeah.
Like, it would feel weird... It would feel weird after this episode for them to do another Memento Mori or Hegemony type episode where, you know, the Gorn are doing something bad and Starfleet has to go and stop them, because it's like, I mean, are you gonna sort of tell, like, you kind of can't take the reconciliation any further.
Right.
You know, like... Yeah. Okay, you could probably get away with it being one person's experience, but, like, you know, as demonstrated by the away team beaming down and immediately murdering the Gorn, like, okay, that was one person's experience of, like, having a revelation about the nature of this alien species, but you probably can't take it much further than that, because then you know, Arena already is... Like, you just sort of have to accept that, like, some of the dialogue in that episode just doesn't count anymore. But you really are undermining that episode if you do more Gorn stuff at this stage.
Okay, so you have to do a little bit of flexing for Arena, but not as much as some people seem to think you do.
Yeah.
Because they never specifically say that they haven't met the Gorn before in Arena. they don't know who it is that attacked the planet, but that doesn't mean that they don't know who the Gorn are. That just means they don't know who attacked the planet.
Right.
Well, and there is this... I mean, there is that super interesting line right at the end that the Metron says around...
Try this again.
Hold on, I got it written down here. You won't remember me, and perhaps someday we may need to reset your perception of the Gorn as well. For which, to me, there are two meanings to that term. Resetting your perception of the Gorn as well means, in the context of La'an and the rest of the away team, just like straight up murdered the Gorn the moment they beam down. We may need to reset your perception, like you think these creatures are vicious monsters, and actually there's more going on here. And so that's what Arena helps to do, is like reset the perception of them. But I mean, I guess there's also a literal interpretation too, which is reset your perception of the Gorn as well, aka you will no longer see them as a race that looks like this, you'll see them as a race that looks like that. Like,
I never thought
you will
of
see
that.
them physically
Thought
as
of that.
a tall guy in a rubber suit rather than a CGI dinosaur.
Interesting.
I mean, that was my, the first time I watched the episode and I heard that line, my takeaway from it was the second one. I was like, oh, there's, it's like a little subtle, like, way of them trying to, reconcile the visual differences. I actually think it's probably more the former, like, your attitude towards rather than literally how you see them physically. But
that
you
was
could
how
definitely
I read
read it that way.
Yeah. And the first time I watched it, I thought they were going to wipe her mind or wipe her concept of having realized that the Gorn were not monsters. And then he says you can keep your memories of this, or however he puts it. And
that would have really sucked if they had done that, because then it's one of those episodes where it's like, well, we're the only ones who know about it, and so it doesn't, like at least, like, yes, the Metrons removed her memories of having talked to the Metron, but like, at least for the character, there was individual character growth.
Yeah, that would have defeated the whole purpose of the episode, so.
Yeah, that would have been, I mean, that works if you set up the episode in a way for that to work. Like, well, I'm thinking, it's sort of a different situation, but observer effect in Enterprise, where the crew never knows.
Yeah, but it's like, I think the difference is the difference in like reset episodes between like if this were a reset episode versus like Year of Hell is the reason I like Year of Hell as a reset episode is it is a reset to correct a bad thing, right? Like, you need to reset in order to go back to normal. In this one, by resetting, you are taking away a good thing. And I don't like those episodes.
Yeah.
But luckily, that's not what Terrarium is.
Yeah.
Yes, I was glad I was wrong.
Yeah. So the episode opens up with Ortegas is going to go on an away mission to chart a very funky area of space that is bouncing their probes around. So they need a crack pilot in there. And she can't take Spock because he's added weight. Which, I'll point out that Spock says he maintains his weight within a balance of 1.8 kilograms, which is about 4 pounds.
Good for him.
Yeah,
wow,
really.
Spock. More power to you.
Yeah. I wish.
Yep.
Right?
Of course, he's in his 20s, right? We could all do that in our 20s.
That's a fair point. I mean, what do we, like, equate Spock's age to in human years? How old is Spock? That's a complicated
Do they
question.
ever give a birth date for him in, like, Memory Alpha?
Right, but that doesn't mean anything because he's half Vulcan.
Right, but it would...
Ethan Peck is my age, which makes me question a lot of my life choices. But
yeah, no kidding.
2230 is when he was born.
2230.
So
he's 28. What's this? 2258.
31. It's 60. It's 2260 when he's 31.
Yeah. He's 31, and that's in, like, all years. So that is presumably, yes, 20s, when we equate the extended lifespan of Vulcans.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm just like, but yes, I was, I was impressed by that 1.8 kilograms.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. Of course, this goes back to the conversation we were having last week about how replicated food, even if it's junk food, is still nutritionally valuable. So
it's true. You can just program how many calories you get in your meal.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Ortegas is taking the shuttle, and all of a sudden a wormhole appears and sucks her in.
Mm-hmm.
Classic crash landing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Shuttle crash on a moon orbiting a gas giant. I question how this moon possibly has an atmosphere, especially given its orbit, the elliptical orbit that takes it through the gas giant.
That was cool. I really like the storms on the horizon thing. You know,
yeah.
Sort of see them coming. The orbit. They called it an orbital storm, which I thought was very cool. That was a neat concept. The episode does look very AR Wall-y, you know? Yeah. Like, there's just that sort of distinctive, like, I don't know if it's the lighting or whatever when they use the AR wall, but, like, this was obviously filmed, you know, mostly in front of the AR wall. But, like, that actually must have been pretty cool, you know, filming the episode and seeing the big orbital storm approaching.
So I can tell when they film in front of the AR wall, but it's the same sort of thing as if I can always tell when they're filming on that set with the in like the TNG DS9 era when they're filming in Planet Hell and it's the fake trees. I can always tell that too, but it's fine. It doesn't take it. It's just hey, there it's the AR wall again. It's not so bad that it like takes me out of it or anything. It's just I can tell. It's the same way that you could always recognize those matte paintings.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you're watching an old movie and you can tell that they did like a rear projection of like the road when they're in a car or whatever behind them.
Yeah.
Right. Or today where you can tell that that they never actually leave the studio for anything and they're always in front of a green screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so of course, the crash destroys her food because naturally.
Why not?
They should maybe consider putting the food in a different spot on the shuttle so that it's not in a spot that can get destroyed when something catches fire that is likely to catch fire.
Or maybe put caches of it in different places?
That's also not a bad idea.
I really loved how she created a water reclamator.
That was cool.
That was really cool.
And I like how she calls out, and she's like, she's like, Beto, if you could only see me now. I thought that was kind of neat.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
So she has no food, so she's got to go out and find a snack.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when she figures out that the orbit of the moon is a flat ellipse, and it's going to go through the atmosphere of the gas giant, which makes me really question, how is there a breathable atmosphere on this planet normally? Like, how does this work? Are we assuming that the Metrons did that too?
That's
I think it's a fair assumption.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think about that as much of a problem at the beginning, but after they set off the flare that burned the entire atmosphere.
Yeah, there was that too.
I was wondering how they were surviving that. So I'm going to
remember we saw that bright light, which I took to be like not first we saw the burning, but then we also saw that bright white light, which I took to be the Metrons.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be the Metrons,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, we see it's that effect that we always see in Trek when a planet's atmosphere is destroyed. It's,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, because it just doesn't make sense in general that a lifeless planet would have a breathable atmosphere at all, because what is producing the oxygen?
Those lizard things.
Those lizard things are actually plants. Okay, love
Pit
it.
monster sushi.
Those things were gross. And her trying to eat it, I really felt for her.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, so she discovers that she's not alone on the planet. She goes to investigate the camp and finds out it's a Gorn.
Dun, dun, dun.
And she's trying to sneak up on it, and it pulls a Jurassic Park on her. Appropriate for the dinosaur-looking alien.
Yep.
Yes.
But it's actually saving her from a pit monster, which was a nice little touch.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back on the Enterprise, they're a little concerned, I suppose.
Just a bit.
This is the part that's similar to Galileo 7, like you were saying, Alex. They've got a time that they have to leave because they have a vaccine to deliver.
Vaccine to deliver to the colonists on Epsilon Indri 3.
Which is mentioned in TNG?
Yes, it's mentioned in The Child.
Oh, all right. And it's they're supposed to rendezvous with the Constellation, so we get a Decker.
Yes, Constellation with Captain Decker. I love that little call out.
Yeah.
It would have been even cooler if we got to see the Constellation with Captain Decker. Who do you think should play Matt Decker if the Constellation shows up?
Good question.
I don't know enough about modern actors.
He's a little young, but Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell.
He is a little young.
Oh yeah,
He's a little young, but if he were maybe 5 years older,
what we would really need would be a younger Kurt Russell. I think would be a good choice.
Yeah.
But also, how old was
William Wyndham?
Because we've discussed this many times. People in that era looked way older than they actually were.
They aged differently.
Yep. World Wars will do that to you.
And if we can have Martin Quinn be 10 years younger than Paul Wesley, whereas James Doohan was 10 years older than William Shatner. I mean,
Right.
William Wyndham was in 1960. Was it 66 or 67? Doomsday Machine.
Assume it was 67, but he was born in 1923. So
Yeah.
1967.
So he was 40. Yeah, like I said, that was a rough 44 in Doomsday Machine.
But you said he was but also he'd been.
Wyatt Russell's 39.
So,
yeah, so if he was another, I said if he was another
Wyatt
5 years
Russell,
older.
also my age, also making me question my life decisions.
Yeah.
Well, at least with him, you can go, okay, well, that was somebody who already had connections, you know.
Well, Ethan Peck too.
Yeah, that's true.
When I think of William Wyndham, I most think of Murder, She Wrote. Because he was a regular on that for a long time.
Did not know that.
Yeah, he was the doctor.
I was more of a Diagnosis Murder guy myself.
Well, that was a little later. I also watched that.
Yeah. But it was on BBC Two in the middle of the afternoon on weekdays. They would play Murder, She Wrote and Diagnosis Murder back to back in the 90s.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wyndham was a paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne. He was in Europe from 43 to 46, so he was probably, it doesn't say specifically that he was involved in D-Day, but I mean, if he was with the 82nd, he probably would have.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
So, yeah, good reason.
Now I like to think that he and Jimmy Doohan were swapping stories on the set.
For sure.
Actually, on License to Spiel, the podcast I do with Carl, we just actually I'm not sure if the episode's even out yet, but it will be releasing an episode very very soon that William Wyndham guest starred in for Columbo.
Cool. There you go.
I should say we did a discussion on an episode of Columbo. We did not raise William Wyndham from the dead to come on the podcast.
I should think not. But, you know, if you have that capacity, you've really been holding out on us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just bring Gene Roddenberry in every week to get his take on each episode.
Oh my god. Yeah, and his
every week
comments
it's
will be,
just
those women are wearing
not enough sex.
too much clothing. Yep. Why are those women wearing trousers? Yes. Except for number one.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, yes, I liked the call out to the Constellation, just reminding us that we're in this established universe that has people we've seen before.
Yep. And again, it's the kind that if you don't know the reference, it's not going to hurt anything. So,
I mean, honestly, the same is true. If you've never seen TOS, you've never seen Arena, you can still enjoy this episode without knowing who the Metrons are.
Totally.
Absolutely.
I mean, you kind of are watching Arena.
Yeah, basically.
Better costuming and creature effects.
And yeah, no creating a rudimentary gun.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ortegas and the Gorn are reaching a sort of uneasy truce here. The Gorn offers her part of a pit monster, and she helps treat the Gorn's wound. She sees that the Gorn has a helmet, so she's like, "Oh, you're a pilot too." And we do still see the flashing lights in the distance.
I mean, it's the direction that everything had to go in. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've enjoyed the Gorn episodes, not as much as some people. Like, I know a lot of people, Memento Mori is one of their favorite episodes of the first season of Strange New Worlds. It's not super high for me. I'd just been really frustrated anytime I'd heard the producers talking about the inclusion of the Gorn, where they're like, well, sometimes there are just monsters out there, and, you know, and you've just got to deal with it, and that's kind of the story we're telling, and that always felt to me like it was such a fundamental misreading of Arena. You know, Kiva talks about, like, Kiva is a huge Gorn. Kiva Goldsman, co-executive producer of Strange New Worlds, has talked before about how he's been a huge Gorn fan since he was a kid. And in, like, Picard season 1, on the Picard podcast, talked about how he tried to put, like, a Gorn Easter egg in every episode of season 1. And some of them made it through to, like, the show, and some of them got cut out. But, like, so you get to Strange New Worlds, and it's like, okay, now you've got your chance to do the Gorn thing. But hearing him talk about the Gorn, it always felt like he talked about it with the level of sophistication of a person who had seen an episode when they were 6 and, like, had then not rewatched the episode when they were an adult, and, like, had that
understood
very sort of surface level interpretation of what they saw because they were a little kid when they saw it for the first time. Because, like,
oh, better watch out, Alex. You're in danger of calling people who like Star Trek anti-intellectual.
The point, the point of Arena is to sort of say this is a race who look very different from you, and create this sort of, like, immediate, like, scare, you know, sort of activate the, you know, like ancient evolutionary fight or flight response to big scary lizard with big teeth. But actually they're, you know, not just big scary lizards. And then for the Strange New Worlds Gorn to just be big scary lizards was so disappointing.
Yes.
I mean, like, and Hegemony did not really do anything to, like, expand that further. In fact, it made it worse with the whole, like, oh, you know, we pull these people in and just digest them on our Starship stuff, which is great. Like, I mean, great sort of horror, but, like, still, you know, still sort of grounded it very much in just that sort of sense that these are just monstrous villains. And, like, I don't know if, I mean, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, this has been planned all along, and you like do the, you know, like you talk about them as monsters so that you can then eventually do the heel turn on it, and that will, you know, make the episode all the more impactful. And I think it does. But I think there's also an element I also would not be surprised to discover that after 3 years of criticism of why do you keep doing Gorn stuff that's just about them being a villain, they're more than a villain. They're like, okay, fine, we'll do our, you know, we'll do our Devil in the Dark for the Gorn.
I kept saying similarly that, like, I hope that what they're doing is, yes, they'll be doing an episode where, like, Arena or not, and I had given up hope on it, honestly. After Hegemony Part 2, I thought, no, that wasn't coming. And there's a reason Hegemony Part 2, I've been listing my ranks of the episodes every week of the season, just from, you know, best to worst. And there's a reason Hegemony Part 2 has been at the bottom for every single week. So I, am very glad that we get this to give us the story that we needed to see for the Gorn.
Yeah. Because that's the Star Trek thing, right? Like, the sort of Star Trek ethos, I don't believe in the no-win scenario, is very much, like, focused on this idea of, like, there isn't true evil. You know, that, like, true evil doesn't, I mean, it's not to say that it doesn't exist, because there are definitely characters who exhibit that. You know, there are individuals who exhibit that. Maybe you could say the Borg exhibit that, but then they go to all the trouble of sort of showing you that the individuals who make up the Borg, once you unborg them, they're not evil, right? Like, they're all just victims of this sort of thing. But and so. And I think that's a like Star Trek's sort of position is, even the person that you disagree with the most, if they are a sentient, intelligent being, you can find some degree of common ground on which you can build a something, right? Like, that's the Federation Klingon relationship throughout the whole franchise. I mean, that's who the Klingons were. First of all, they were the Soviet Union, the implacable enemy that we were never going to reconcile with. And then the whole story of the franchise through the 23rd and 24th century shows is like, yeah, these guys are really different from us, but we can still become friends. And I mean, maybe that's a simplistic view of the world, but I don't think it's a simplistic view of the world. I think it's an optimistic. It's not really even optimistic, because saying it's optimistic implies that, like, I don't know. I feel like there's, like, a naive undertone to that, but, like, I think it's a very bold vision for, like, how the world functions. And as much as I think, like, you look outside your window right now and you might go, well, maybe there are real just evil things and people, and, like, you know, and you can't ultimately get to universal peace and happiness and prosperity. That's just not, like, that's not achievable. The best you can do is do that for some people, and you know, and everybody else suffers. Like I like that Star Trek is that, you know, that it is sort of the, like, no, there is a right answer to all of these questions, and the right answer is peace and understanding and reconciliation, and that everybody, or at least, you know, like outside of individual contexts on a macro level, whether it's the Dominion or the Romulans or the Klingons or the Cardassians, that like whole groups of people don't tend to be irredeemably evil. DeClerck is irredeemably evil, but he is an individual. The Cardassians are not irredeemably evil, even though there are irredeemably evil people who are Cardassians. And like the Strange New Worlds perspective on it up until this point has been the Gorn are irredeemably evil. And this episode is the first that really sort of deconstructs that narrative to say, no, that is your perception of them. And they are very different. And so, you know, that difference is creating a lot of this tension and conflict. But it is possible for two individuals who are not themselves inherently evil to find common cause and develop a relationship. And therefore, if it is possible at the individual level, it is possible at the group level as well.
It's almost as if everything we've seen of the Gorn up to this point has been from the outside perspective. And this gives us, it's still from Ortegas's perspective, but there's opportunity for there to be more nuance.
Right.
And yeah.
When there's that moment where when they start talking to each other, where just trying to find in my notes. Yeah, right. So Ortega says to the Gorn, you study your prey, and the Gorn responds, disagree.
Yeah.
And then Gorn says, you want to understand your enemy, and the Gorn says, agree, right? Like, so, yeah, I mean, they do see themselves as enemies right now. They clearly are, right? Like, every time they see each other, they fight each other. And let's not forget, a Starfleet away team just straight up murders the Gorn right at the end of the episode. And we just sort of walk away into the sunset. But, like, you know, that sort of goes to show that the Gorns, like, that's really all we get of the sort of deeper Gorn motivation, which is why, like, I don't want it to be until after Arena, but, like, I would actually really like, I don't want another Gorn episode in Strange New Worlds, but I would love something set after Arena that tries to go a bit deeper into, okay, what do you mean by that? But this is sort of the deepest look we get into the motivation of the species. And as stated in the episode, they don't view the Federation as prey. They view them as an enemy. And a predator-prey relationship is one that is natural and inherent and something that, like, you probably can't negotiate your way out of. An enemy-enemy relationship is something that you can figure out, you can fix, right? Like, that is fixable because that's something that's not evolutionary or biological. That's about sentient people disagreeing about what their priorities are and becoming alienated from each other as a result. And, you know, sort of demonstrating that there is a way back from that is both very Star Trek-y and was, you know, like a really nice sort of undercurrent for the episode as a whole. And, like, I feel bad when she dies at the end, right? Like, I know I'm skipping us ahead, but, like...
Oh, no, you're fine.
That's, like, that sucks. It was a bold move for the episode to do that. And I wish there had been, like... I have two criticisms of this episode, and they're relatively minor criticisms, because it is a great episode of the season. Criticism number one is... It is a very well done version of this episode. There is not much about it that is original. Like, you know, we've talked about Galileo 7 and the enemy, and there's Darmok in here, and there's, you know, like there's 4 or 5 or 6 different episodes where, you know, they've done versions of this story in quite a similar way. And this one is a very good version of it, but it's ultimately doesn't have, like, maybe the originality of something like The Sailor Who Ate His Tail. But then my second criticism is, after they murder the Gorn, there is no real interaction between Ortegas and La'an about that moment and that decision.
Yeah.
Ortegas gets a scene with Uhura to sort of process what happened to her and the death of the Gorn. But, like, La'an beams down, straight up murders the Gorn, and, like, I mean, presumably she's okay with it, because she has her own baggage with the, you know, with the Gorn, but, like, it would have been... I would have liked just a little bit more as sort of an exploration of now Ortegas having a perception about the Gorn that is not shared by someone like La'an, who has deeper and more traumatic experiences with them. Like that was the only thing that felt like it was missing from the end of the episode that I would have really loved to see, to kind of explore that a little deeper. But, like, it's still a really bold thing for them to have done, to have made that choice to kill off the Gorn, have it be at the hands of Starfleet, and like, you know, sort of punch you in the gut with that, because, you know, as much as the Gorn is a ugly dinosaur, like, you do you like, they do a really good job of, I'm gonna, as it would slap me on the wrist for this, but they do a good job of humanizing this, like, you know, vicious reptile dinosaur creature over the course of the episode in a way that you feel sad when she dies at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the added element too of, I feel like, because Ortegas told her that she could come with them, you know, that it would be safe for her to do that in the face of her people who would kill her because she's broken. So there's that added. Ortegas probably feels like she betrayed her, even though she didn't.
Yeah.
But La'an thought that she was protecting her friend and you know, shipmates. So
And from La'an's perspective, it does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like the Gorn's about to attack Ortegas.
Mm-hmm. Which is why it's a Star Trek episode that makes you think, as opposed to just an action movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that we have basically a series of scenes, almost a montage, as it were, showing Ortegas and the Gorn getting closer. I enjoy when they teach each other their board games.
Yes.
And then she has to eat the piece because she won.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, but, you know, that's fine.
I like that the whatever the, like, portable campfire was that Ortegas had, the flame comes out of a Starfleet Delta shaped hole in the device, continuing the
branding.
everything is a Starfleet Delta motif.
Honestly, which show was it that the season premiere, like, pack that they sent to some people included a candle that burned with the Delta flame?
Oh, I don't remember that.
That's cool.
It had, like, it was a candle that had, like, a funky shaped wick, so it would burn with the Delta flame. I don't know. I've never been special enough to receive one of those swag bags.
I think I got, like, one.
Other than, like, the only time I got anything was when I went to the season 2 premiere of Strange New Worlds in New York, and that was during the strike, so they were just like, here, take this swag, please keep watching Star Trek.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a really nice tote bag out of it, so.
Again, as I say, I feel like I say every week now, the marketing people at Paramount are not good. They are not doing their jobs.
I don't know about that. I mean, the ratings for the show are the highest they've, you know, like, Strange New Worlds Season 3's ratings, according to Nielsen, have been, like, they're higher than Season 2. They're higher than Star Trek Picard Season 3. I mean, they're clearly doing something right and getting people to watch it.
I said marketing, I meant merchandising, excuse me.
Fair enough.
I tried Googling this, but there's not enough discussion of Star Trek swag bags for this to be useful to Google.
Yeah.
It is a very elite group who get them.
Yes. And my understanding is it basically comes down to they send messages to people that they think should get them, and they give them their address and they send it to them. And I would love to know how to become the person that they think should be getting those things.
Maybe if we offered to do a giveaway or something.
But I've gotten a few of the things because I have friends, some of whom who have gotten things, and some of them, I have some friends who, I don't understand this personally, but I have some friends who don't actually want lots of Star Trek merchandise.
The stuff, yeah.
And I can't relate, but they know that I will take any piece of Star Trek merchandise.
They're smart that way.
The Gorn basically lets Ortegas know that they can't go home because they're injured, so they'll be killed. And Ortegas, doesn't want to accept that, so she's gonna help them and bring her back to the Enterprise if possible. And unfortunately, she ends up accidentally destroying the protective shield that the Gorn had set up that was keeping them away from the monsters and also from the atmosphere of the gas giant. So now, now we get the Galileo 7, where, well, if the atmosphere's going to come to us, we might as well light it on fire and send up a flare.
Might as well. That's fine.
And of course, as usual, as is narratively expected, they see the flare just in time, before they were going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when Lon and the team beamed down, and not understanding the situation, killed the Gorn. And Ortegas gets a conversation with the Metrons. They freeze time and tell her everything that was going on, that this was all an experiment, and they determined they're not ready yet, and they're gonna erase the memory of this experience and possibly change the perception of the Gorn in the future. And of course, we know that they're setting up their future experiment for Arena.
It's cool end.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, while watching the episode for the first time, you're like, oh, this is Strangely Worlds' take on Arena, right? It's a Gorn and a Starfleet officer stranded on a planet. And so giving it that level of explicit direct connection, feels right and feels appropriate. And the Metrons are kind of dicks, like that's the stuff Arena, and that's kind of too. Because they do let the Gorn die. That is a casualty that they allow to happen as part of their experiment, and don't seem to care all that much that that's how it ultimately wraps up. But I thought it was obviously very surprising. I was surprised. I had not.
I did not expect the actual Metrons to show up.
No, I was not anticipating that. I mean, obviously, when a rather gender fluid guy appears, I'm like, oh, it's the Metrons, obviously. That's really cool, and that sort of tickled my Star Trek, funny bone. But yeah, it was it was an interesting way to kind of wrap up the episode. It did give it higher stakes beyond just Ortegas crash lands in the same place as a Gorn and they have to survive together. And I think it does set up it does set up Arena really well. I have not done it yet where you watch this episode and then you watch Arena, but I think that would be an interesting comparative exercise to watch the two episodes back to back.
Yeah. Sort of like watching Balance of Terror and Equality of Mercy together.
Right, exactly. Yes, it's very similar. It's a very similar conceit. Strange New Worlds doing an episode that has a direct tie-in to a TOS episode in that way.
Well, is there anything else about this episode that either of you haven't touched on yet?
I didn't love the Uhura stuff.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I
we
didn't
didn't talk about that.
I did not love that she, or they made the decision to make her character fudge the numbers to, like, go do the rescue. I mean, I do, like, having said that, I do really like the sort of sense of everybody having this really strong bond with each other, and that bond being really important. It was pretty morally questionable or ethically questionable what she did. Like, it's fine because it worked out, and, you know, as it does in a Star Trek episode, but, like, sort of sends the wrong message to, like, if you're, you know, a kid watching this episode, like, what's your takeaway from this experience is probably not the right lesson.
You should lie to your boss.
Yeah, you should lie to your boss, you know, for your own purposes, because you've made the decision that the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many, which is effectively sort of Uhura's position in the episode, where, like, Una's position is much more the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. So you do have that sort of tension that takes place on the Enterprise. And I thought Pike kind of let her off the hook too easily.
Just by saying, I wouldn't have left anyway.
Yeah, where he's like, I know what you did, but it's okay because I would have done this anyway. And it's like, no, it's not okay. She straight up lied to you, right? Like, you know, she altered data and lied to you to manipulate your decision making. And that's still wrong, even if you ultimately ended up making the decision that you would have made anyway, because she didn't know that. And so that was like that was a mistake. And I feel like a mistake like that, there should be some element of learning and growth that goes along with it. Because, like, what's your takeaway, or what's Uhura's takeaway from what she did in this episode, right? Like, if a similar thing happens again, she would absolutely do the same thing again, right? Like, because it worked the first time. So, like, that doesn't, like, I didn't love that piece of it, but, you know, it definitely ups the tension, ups the dramatic stakes. So, like, I understand it all, and you can't do everything in an episode, but there were two scenes missing at the end of the episode for me. One was a scene a lot like the scene between Una and Ortegas in Shuttle to Kenfori at the end of the episode, where Una's like, I know what you did, don't you ever do that again. Because Ortegas did exactly the same thing. She manipulated the situation to align with her plan versus somebody else's plan. Like, so you were missing that scene. Uhura needed that scene to, like, slap her on the wrists for the risky decisions that she made in this episode. And it needed a La'an Ortega scene to be like, wow, we both have really, you know, traumatic experiences with the Gorn. I just had this, you know, like, experience in which I have started to get over that trauma and, like, had the opportunity to get to know them as not just monsters, and then you beam down and murdered my new friend. You know, like, it needed that scene too. Like, those felt like glaring omissions from the episode to me. Not in a way that, like, it really hurts the episode, but I do think to elevate it from a great episode of Strange New Worlds to one of the best episodes of Star Trek, for me, it would have needed those two little pieces.
No, that's fair.
think, they could have gotten around that, because the point was to keep the tension going with, was it actually going to work? And they could have gotten around that by, instead of her fudging the number, him looking at it and going, close enough. And then he's the captain and he makes the decision. And you still have that tension, but you don't have the lie.
Right.
But, you know, that's 20/20 hindsight, as it were.
Yeah, and I feel like, that's the sort of thing that, and we've seen stuff like this in Star Trek plenty of times, where the crew will tell the captain we've got to leave, but the captain will still hang on for a little bit longer.
And since he says he would have done it anyway, same diff. So, overall, very good episode.
Yeah.
Very Trek.
Yep, totally. Yep. I mean, one of the best of season 3 for sure.
Yes. Yeah, no, you gave me something to think about the fact that this is an amalgamation, so whether or not that makes it better than the Silot who ate its tail, well, that's a complicated... They're both really good, I think we'll put it that way.
They're both really good. It's just missing like it I mean, let's name the episodes, right? Arena, Galileo 7, The Enemy, Darmok, Dawn
Duet.
from Enterprise. There's this, one of you mentioned there's an element of duet, at the end of the episode with them killing the Gorn, even though they just made friends. Like, it is a very good version of this episode. Is any of this episode something that you haven't seen before in Star Trek, or you feel like it, is like genuinely brand new? That's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Most episodes of Star Trek these days, with almost 1,000 episodes of Star Trek, the answer is no, because there's only so many different kinds of story, and there's only so many different kinds of Star Trek story, and so eventually you are remixing the greats in new and interesting ways. And like, this is a remix of the greats in an interesting way, but it felt more of a... I think so. I would contrast this with Space Adventure Hour. Space Adventure Hour was a classic holodeck episode, and you can name all the holodeck episodes that like it draws on to do Space Adventure Hour. It's part Elementary Dear Data, it's part Our Man Bashir. It's got a lot of DNA from other episodes of Star Trek. The thing that it's like, well, I've never seen this before, is the break the fourth wall element of it's about a 1960s science fiction TV show that's a lot like Star Trek. Like, that was something you'd never seen before, with a framing story that was The Big Goodbye and Elementary Dear Data and Our Man Bashir kind of all remixed together. This episode has the remixing, right? We named all the episodes that it's very similar to in some ways, but I don't know that I can identify what the new thing was that the familiar stuff wrapped around. And so, like, if there's anything that takes away from the success of this episode, it's maybe that.
Okay, yeah, no, that all makes sense. I will say, though, this definitely does a better job of being an amalgamation of various Star Trek episodes than What Is Starfleet did.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
All right. If there's nothing more that we want to cover, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Where can listeners find you online? Do you have any work you want to mention?
You can find my Star Trek news podcast, Weekly Trek, a TrekCore news podcast. You can find it at trekcore.com. You can find it on all your podcast platforms. I've also been the weekly reviewer for Strange New Worlds this season, so you can find all of my Strange New Worlds reviews for season 3 at trekcore.com.
All right, Chrissie, where can people find you when you're not eating your game pieces in victory?
Literally, I scribbled on here, I was going to ask you where you are when you're not pretending to eat game pieces. Okay. I guess that was the obvious go-to. Right. In addition to here on Infinite Diversity, you can find me on History with the Szilagyi here on the BQN. That's that twice weekly short history podcast I do with my fellow historian partner, Jason. We're just starting a series, Return to Rome, where we're looking at HBO's Rome from its 20 years since it came out. And we're going to go from that into I, Claudius next year for its 50th anniversary. So, start watching some Rome and then tune in for that. I'm also happy to chat about our shows on the BQN Collective on Facebook, and I'm in the various socials as the Goddess Livia, where you can see my opinions about Star Trek history and leftist politics. Thad, where can people find you when you're not convincing people to cook alien sushi? Pit Monster Sushi. It's Pit Monster Sushi.
All right, you can hear me on the podcast I do with my friend Carl called License to Spiel. That's license spelled with a C like the British do it, where we started out talking about James Bond, and once we ran out of that, started talking about other things and are currently going through Columbo. You can also find links to all of my podcasts and socials on my website. That's tyrannicus.net, tyranicus.net.
Don't forget about all of our other great shows here on the BQN. Here's a recording of Amy to tell you all about them.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristen. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey and Mitch, self-proclaimed gamers who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for The Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through Star Trek Cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam Aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Steven. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissie and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissie and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into beta canon with Peter, host of the Trek Book Club on Twitter and Blue Sky, and his companion Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey and MC. If you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch The View Screen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy, with new 8-week seasons in the spring and fall. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with an LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea Bev. And for our patron members, we have the Hive Mind with script readings and roundtable discussion, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, and Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. You can keep up with all of these shows by following the network at BQN Podcasts on Instagram and Blue Sky. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Infinite Diversity. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music and Mark White for the awesome show art. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast player, and don't forget to rate and review us there as well.
And if you'd like to reach out, you can find the network on the socials at BQN Podcasts, or our show specifically at IDIC Podcast. You can also talk about any and all of the BQN podcasts in our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, and join our Discord server. When you next hear from us, we'll be talking about the Season 3 finale of Strange New Worlds, New Life and New Civilizations. Until then, we bid you peace and long life.
Still feels like the title of a series finale.
It does. I don't like that, but we know that they've been filming more, so it's okay.